Okay, so this is part two. The first part that we recorded today is how to put the dough together, all the ingredients and mixing it in the mixer. Now we are going to take the dough. It's been rising for an hour, and I covered it with a towel and it's filled the bowl. It actually was a little bit higher. I punched it down already. So when it rises, you can just punch it down. Um, and sometimes I let it sit another 10-15 minutes until I can get to it. But I'm ready to get to it right now. I actually need to go get my pans. If you have your cookie trays or whatever, that's what we're going to need next. So let me go get mine. Okay. So I use stones. You can use whatever. The metal ones are what most people have. I would lightly grease it, not too much because you don't want it to be soggy on the bottom. Or oil it. I use stones and I don't put any oil on them. They don't need it. So I'm going to do dinner rolls first. This isn't adding anything. Everything that's right here is what we're going to use. At my house, I usually do half. I'll do half of the dough in dinner rolls. The other half, I use cinnamon chip rolls. I use cinnamon chips, and I'll show you how I do that. But for Thanksgiving dinner, most of the time people just want the plain rolls, and they make such good leftovers. Or yeah, we put turkey sandwiches on them the next day. Um, so this dough, I divide it into 4 parts, and I'm going to roll it out onto my mat like a pizza 4 times. So that is, and I have a pizza cutter. I actually just cut it like a pizza and it goes super fast. So I just kind of eyeball what 4 sections looks like. Yeah. So this is just how I do it. I start with it in my hands and I stretch it kind of like they do at the pizza place, making it go into a circle and get it as much stretched out in the middle as I can. It's easier to stretch the edges out once it's laid down, but in the middle kind of helps to get it stretched out. I'm touching it and trying to make sure that it's kind of the same thickness all around. If I feel a thick spot, I will just press it down and fill into a spot that's not quite as thick. Like right here, it's just kind of thin. So I'm stretching the thick part into the thin part. And my dough is just exactly right. I didn't need to add any extra flour because this is sliding all over.
Do you put flour on your
I didn't.
okay.
If it was sticking to my fingers, I would have.
Okay.
I use a silicone mat. You can do it right on your countertop. That is actually a really good surface if you have a granite or a quartzite or something. That works great. I just use a mat because it's easy cleanup. I honestly don't wash the mat too much because it keeps that floury texture to it. I just put it in a place where I can store it, and it's okay if it gets a little floury. And then I'm really just trying to make sure that the thickness is about the same. And I'm trying to make it as big of a pizza as I can, trying, getting to the outer edge of this pizza mat. This mat that I have measures 14 inches on the outside. I think this could be used for pies. It just has measurements on it, so whatever size you have, according to a quarter of that dough. I'm gonna move that. Okay, so I go from 6 o'clock to 12 o'clock. I'm just cutting a pizza. I go from 3 o'clock to 9 o'clock. And then I guess this is 11 to 5, 4 to 10, 1 to 7, and 2 to 8 with a pizza cutter. And then I've got my 12 sections. And then I pick one, I kind of poke the corners in, and then I roll it up from the outside toward the middle. So that's how it turns out. These on my trays. So I think you can see. Maybe I'll do this one a little bit closer. Okay, let's try this. So I take the corners and I just poke them in a little bit, and then I roll it up. I kind of pull back on it. So it's about the same thickness on all the layers. And I end with the point of the triangle. That's what I set down on the pan to keep the point in. If you leave the point on the top, when they bake, it's going to pop open. So you turn the point down and set that on the baking sheet. So I don't know, maybe I'll do it this way. So I just kind of poke the corners in and pull it back while I roll it forward. And then lay the point of the corner down. So poke it in. How's it going, Marissa?
I think we're good. Let me show you. I just got, I did put flour on my surface. I have like a little piece of coriander countertop cutting board that I roll out things on, and it's got it and like that.
Yep, that looks great.
And do you have to put them spaced apart on your cookie sheet, or?
Yeah, I do. I line them up. So I give them a little space because they will rise a little bit more.
Okay.
So I leave a little bit of space, but when they're baked, they'll probably be touching.
Okay, perfect.
So. And
12 on a sheet? 12 on
no, not, did you say 12?
Yeah.
No, I get about 18 to 20. Okay, so this is what these are my it's hard to do this with the camera. So I will show you how I line these up. I end up using 3. I do 2 that are rectangle, and then I have one pizza one that I end up using all 3 of them. So let's see. That better?
Yeah.
You can see. Let me do that. And the reason I tuck the corners in, I'm thinking that might be a question people have, is that it just looks cleaner on the ends instead of being, okay, I'll do one without. So I'm not tucking the corners in on this one, and that just means that there's more, I don't know. maybe it's just my own preference, but I don't like the corner poking out. I like it tucked in a little bit, so that's why I tuck them in when I roll them up. So I tuck them in. I guess it just has rounded corners instead of pointed corners. Let's see. There. Poke it in a little bit. When my grandkids or my kids help me, they always say, Mom, you make it look so easy. And I think it's just because I've done it so much. But I do like making them look very uniform. And if the dough, the dough was a little bit thicker, so I tried to stretch it more as I was rolling it. This one's thick too. This one's a little bit thicker. So I just try to stretch it. Let's see if I can get it on video. Just kind of stretch it and pull it back more while I am rolling it. This one has a lot of rolls to it, a lot of layers. So Marissa and I were talking before we started recording about if you're not ready to use the rolls, like can you do these a day before or a few days before? And yes, I'll tell you how I do that. I'm ready to get my next section going. This is my second section. And this one again, I'm just going to do the dinner roll. So if, for example, today, I don't necessarily need 4 dozen rolls, but next Wednesday or Thursday, I'd love to have 4 dozen rolls for my family. And so it's nice to be able to do some of the work on a day other than when you're trying to do turkey and potatoes and everything else and your oven is maxed out. So what I like to do is today I'm going to bake them minus like 7 minutes. 7 minutes less than what I normally would. And so keep them just a little underbaked, which means I want them to grow to their full size in the oven. And just as they start to brown, I want to take them out. And then I'm going to let them fully cool down. So there's no humidity or no heat in them. And then I'm going to put them in a Ziploc and I'm going to freeze them. Okay. And then when I'm ready to use them, I'll pull them out, thaw them completely, and then put them back in the oven for about 7, 8 minutes, like finish the cooking time and the brown till they browned. And then I always put some melted butter or a stick of butter and rub them on the hot rolls when they come out of the oven. So that's my little hack of how to get homemade rolls on a busy day. Just do it on a day when you're not rushed and then just top them off that day. So again, I've tried to touch it where I can feel there's air pockets in here. I can poke it with something to get the air pockets out, and there's some spots that are a little thicker than others. So I'm just trying to even it all out.
This is actually pretty easy once you get the hang of the rolling.
Yeah. It really is. And like I mentioned in the last video, the thing that makes it frustrating is if you're trying to be in a hurry. If you're doing rolls on a day where you don't have a lot of interruptions or you don't have a lot of pressure, it's much more enjoyable. So I just cut everything like a pizza again, like the time's on a clock. And guac pizza rolls. So some variations to this. This is your basic dough. You don't have to do anything to make this taste good. But you also could, as it's rolled out before I cut it, I could have spread some soft butter on it. I could have sprinkled cinnamon and sugar on it. I could have sprinkled some orange zest and butter. And then when they come out, I would probably top it off with a little bit of icing, which would be made out of powdered sugar and milk, just a real thin powdered sugar icing. And you can roll this dough out into any shape you want. Doesn't have to be these crescent rolls. They could be I've taken it before and done like rolled it out in a rectangle and buttered it and cinnamon and sugared it, even sometimes put raisins in it or pecans or whatever you want. And then I roll it from the short end. I roll it to the other short end. And so it creates the cinnamon roll feel. I have taken that cinnamon roll. So if it's in a log and then I slice it this way, and then I have the beautiful cinnamon part. I have lined them up on a tray in the size of a Christmas tree and made a Christmas tree cinnamon roll. And I've taken that to neighbors, or I used to do that when I was first married, and then it became a lot of work. So. Okay, so what I just did, this tray is heavy. I just tried to fit as many on as I could. Let's see, I got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20. So I have 20 on that tray. And I'm going to start another tray. So remember, this is half of the dough. I still have half more to go, and I'm going to turn that one into the cinnamon chip rolls. I will show you how to do that. So I live here in Holiday, and we have Great Harvest here that makes the most delicious Cinnaburst bread. And this one's a fat one again, so I'm going to stretch it a little bit more. I like my rolls all being as uniform size as I can. And I am putting them on this other one. Those are just the extra ones. I'll do this tray, all the cinnamon chip ones. So cinnamon burst bread from Great Harvest is so yummy, it's so good. It's just this round loaf of bread, and they have these cinnamon chips in it. And so I was like, oh, I want to try cinnamon chip bread or Cinnaburst bread. And so I experimented with it, and it just melted the chips. Then I just had this loaf of like cinnamon flavored bread. There were no chips to it. It was all melted into it. And I'm like, that's not what I wanted. And so this is how I figured out how to still use the cinnamon chips. And in fact, I forgot. And still get the rolls. So I forgot. The first thing I do is this is about a 1/3 cup of cinnamon chips. And I'm going to sprinkle this onto my mat within that 14-inch circle. So I just spread those out as evenly as I can on the mat first. And then I take my dough and I've kind of stretched it. This is why it's important to stretch the center part as much as I can. I take the dough and I place it on top of the chips. Place it on top and try to just have the outside part, the part that I need to roll out. I don't want to spend too much time or too much pressure on rolling it on top of the chips. Just to preserve that the chips are on the outside. I don't really want them blended in the middle. Because as I roll it up, it already takes care of blending them. So I roll that out the same way that I did before. Cut these the same way. And fold the corners in. And as I roll it up, the chips are on the outside of the rolls. And then I just place those on there. And that is, it really can add as much cinnamon chips as you want. Sometimes I feel like it's not quite enough, then I add it, or it's too much. You can always take them away. Nobody has ever complained that I put too much cinnamon chips in it. Never had that complaint. They think more is better. So this is my version of cinnamon chip rolls. And when they come out of the oven, I take a stick of butter and I melt it in the microwave. And when these come out of the oven, I pour it over the top. Don't try to take a softened stick of butter and try to rub it on it, because it will smear in the chips and it will mess up. Yeah, the chips will be so soft and it'll just make your butter really messy, and it's better to use melted butter to pour over the top. You can just take my word on that. I've tried it all different ways. Yeah. Marissa, how does the dough smell?
It's delicious. I can't wait to bake them up and try one. I wish I had the cinnamon chips to try that. I'll have to do that in the future.
Yeah, it's another way of doing it. Let me tell you another way I use. I actually have a different recipe. But if you had this bread recipe down, another way you can use it is breadsticks. I would roll them thin like I am, roll them thin. And okay, if I were to do breadsticks, I would actually roll it out in this. I would put a little cornmeal on the bottom, and I would take my dough and I would spread it out and make it as even as I can. And then I spread it with softened butter and garlic salt and a special seasoning called Salad Supreme. I think I have. This is Salad Supreme. There's a glare. There we go. And this makes a really tasty breadstick. I would say people know me and come back to me for more to learn how to do rolls, cinnamon chip rolls, and breadsticks. I taught my young women, it was so fun when they started getting married, and one came over and said, "Can I come cook with you? I want to take home breadsticks so my husband can think I'm a really good cook." So fun. I have loved sharing baking with people all through the years. And now it's so fun to do it with my grandkids. This is one reason why I wanted my pantry this way, is so that I'd have the space to cook and bake with my grandkids. And I I feel like I'm living the dream right now. I am just have I love it. I love being able to share these things virtually, actually. I had never dreamed of doing that. Um, but in person. And I I really do love doing these things in person too. It just seems like the benefits of doing this virtually are that you get this smell in your home and you're actually doing all the work. So I'm going to spread this out over top of my cinnamon chips. And if you want to knock the socks off your family, um, the day you come up with cinnamon chips out of your oven, they will, you they they will just be so amazed. They will want you to, they'll want you to do it every week. I did that for a while until it became unhealthy. We were all eating way too many rolls. Because you can't eat them all on the same day, and then they were lasting multiple days, and then you had leftovers, and then feeling guilty, I can't throw any rolls away, so had to keep eating stale rolls. And I learned for myself, my hack. Okay, what I've learned is, to me, the best part of a homemade roll is within the first 10 minutes when it comes out of the oven. When the butter's melted and it's hot and it's soft. That's my favorite part of a homemade roll. So I have given myself that boundary that I can have a homemade roll when it comes out of the oven if I want to. I really prefer it that way, even rather than saving it and eating it with my meal. I don't enjoy it as much during mealtime, or I used to save it for my dessert. I don't enjoy it that much either because I'm kind of full and kind of loses its joy and excitement for me. So that's just something personally that I've kind of asked myself, is like, what is the best part of the roll for you? And for me, it's within those first few minutes when it comes out. And I tell my family, I'm like, I get the first roll. I really don't even need more than one roll if I get like the most satisfaction out of having it that way. It helped me stop feeling the pressure to eat all the leftover rolls and wipe the plate clean. I don't need to do that. I just want the first one out of the oven. So it'll be fun to see what you come up with, or how you enjoy the rolls the best.
I mostly love the smell of them baking.
Uh-huh, for sure. Um, how are you? Are you done with your four?
Yeah, I've rolled them all.
Okay. We have to take a picture, and you can put on social media and tag me. I want to see them. And a family will just be so impressed. And you have this video to replay and redo it as often as you need to. And I just really hope that the rolls will bless your family and give them that sense of comfort food and togetherness, and just that feeling that the family's together during the holidays. That's the most important part. Um, and something homemade like that just kind of makes it extra special.
Yeah, I agree.
Um, yeah, any
Getting
questions, or I'm coming down to my last one here.
And then the instructions say to cover with a dish towel and let them rise.
Yeah, so that's what I did with the first one. This one, I'm gonna do the same thing. My dish towel's big enough that I can, whoops. I had extra chips. I'm gonna add them to the top here. Okay, so I'm going to. There are all of my rolls. I strategically laid them together. And you know me, I have to take a picture of everything. Then I will cover them all with one towel. Not quite. Okay. So I'm gonna cover it. I'm gonna go set my oven right now to 350. If you know what your oven cooks rolls out best, it needs to be a little bit higher or whatever. 350 for about 18 minutes for me is what I do. And so at this point, I'll go set the oven. When it's heated, then I'll put the first one in that I made first, which is the plain one. Whichever one I finished first, I just cook first. I don't like doubling up and layering. I haven't really mastered using a convection oven for it. It's just, for me right now, it's just best to just do the traditional 350 bake for that long. I have a steam oven. I've tried it in there. I have not mastered that, so I'm not gonna share how if I ever master it, then I will tell the world about it. But for right now, it's just pretty simple. So, do
And
you
if
have any
these
questions or
I'm gonna
what?
if I'm gonna freeze these for later, I will bake them instead of 18 minutes, maybe
I
10
would,
minutes.
yeah, I would check it at 10. If it's still really doughy looking and not firm, I would give it another 1 or 2 minutes. You want them to get to the full rising and the full, like they're probably cooked inside. That's what I'm trying to say. You want them at least cooked inside, so they're not gonna fall or collapse. So I would guess it would be anywhere from 10 to 12 minutes. And then let them cool completely, freeze them. If you want to freeze them on your trays, you could cover them and freeze them that way. I'm going to put them in a Ziploc bag and freeze them flat. And then when they come out, I'll just put them back on the tray and heat them up.
Okay, thaw them first and then just bake them another like 6 to 8 minutes.
Yeah, you want them hot all the way through. Another trick, if the tops are getting too brown faster than they're cooking inside, I put a piece of foil over the top and that will stop it from browning, but it will let it cook inside underneath still. So every oven is different. I wish I could just say this is just how it's going to work for you, but I think you need to have just watch it and have the intuition of like, okay, this needs more time, or this isn't working. This is cooking too fast on top. You slow down the top and let the bottom catch up. So
Perfect.
there's all my advice. Okay. I hope you have a great Thanksgiving and I hope this is really helpful. And enjoy that good smell of your rolls coming out of the oven.
Thanks, Becky.